One doctor inside Iran has told Sky News that security forces forcibly discharged patients and then took them to prison, even when they were in the hospital and needed further treatment. Let's take a listen.
Pressure was put on nurses and doctors to clear out the emergency department. In other words, any patient who was there, whether they had clear medical indications or not, was told to be discharged. They wanted the emergency ward emptied for security forces who had been injured. In some cases, patients were removed from ventilators and other medical equipment. They said, let them die, they have no rights, they are against the Islamic system, and they deserve to die.
Let's speak now to Negah Angha, former senior advisor at the US State Department. Very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What's your latest sources on the ground saying for the scale of ongoing protests and the crackdown?
I mean, it's devastating what we're watching, what you just played right now, too. The massacre is unbelievable. We haven't seen this in quite some time, in decades. What started out as citizens expressing their rights for economic reasons, right? They couldn't buy bread. It was beyond the pale. But then you have indiscriminate killing. People go out of their apartment buildings just to buy groceries and they get shot and killed. And now they can't be treated in the hospitals because of fear of repression. And this is just pretty much a playbook of the Iranian regime and clamping down on its people. And you can tell there's a little bit of fear in them if they're going after just average citizens.
Yes, you say that the playbook of the regime. I mean, I guess the whole point of this is to kill so many people, frankly, so that they just stop protesting, that regime change doesn't happen.
It's a repression tactic. And the more that they can clamp down, the more that they can make decisions and keep their stay in power. Right now, the supreme leader is quite old, and you have your own internal domestic politics of what would that look like in terms of his succession. So there is the internal battle. So the more you can clamp down on the citizens, the more you can keep out foreign players in the domestic politics. But Iran is at its weakest right now, both in terms of the variety of protests that have occurred over the last several years, women life freedom just a few years back, and now you have this sort of what had been an economic protest turning into this instability with the regime.
Obviously, as we said, you were a former State Department official, you were National Security Council under the Biden administration. What sort of level of options will the president be presented with at the moment? I mean, obviously, he's sent enough capacity, military capability to the region now. Will he have a full suite of options of action he could take if he decided to?
Absolutely. I think.
And they can range from what to what?
I think right now, again, there's a lot of play and see. Because when you have these options, you're gauging reactions. Right now, President Trump is gauging the Iranian reaction. It's gauging even European and regional allies. So the Iranians have been putting a lot of rhetoric. They're hedging. They're saying, obviously, we don't want to talk. We should talk. So there is a play to see whether or not President Trump can enter into any kind of nuclear negotiation, something a bit more harsher than the 2015 version that he torpedoed. But then you also have, where do the regional allies stand? Saudis, the Emiratis have said, please don't use our airbase, or our airspace, rather. The Qataris and the Omanis are doing a lot of the PAC channel discussions right now to diffuse tensions. Turkey is saying, please don't enter into a war. This is going to cause a regional crisis. The Europeans just agreed to put the IRGC on the terror list. This means it's going to clamp down much more. So, and the president is pushing. He's pushing, what feels like maximum pressure 2.0. He's obviously using the threat. He has this. His negotiation style is to push and threaten potential kinetic actions. Whether he takes those, whether he needs to take those, is a big question. You have one U.S. Aircraft carrier in the region right now. The second is still in Norfolk, hasn't made its way over. So I think there's still a bit of time.
Can I ask, and I know opinion isn't going to be all the same. But what do you think the Iranians actually want? Do you think they want the US to get involved? Because I'll be honest, if you look historically, the West hasn't got a great track record, right, of intervening in these conflicts. But is it at a point now where people do want the states to get involved?
I think the Iranian citizens inside the country want regime change. I think that they have made that abundantly clear. I think it's a matter of they need someone to help push this over the edge. You have a perfect confluence of things that have occurred inside Iran where you could see that regime change. I think the biggest piece, and I think to answer your question, is we need to see security defections. If we don't see any of the security apparatus defecting, then to your exact point, any foreign intervention could turn out to be a bit dicey.
Do you think, the Trump and Biden administrations don't see eye to eye on pretty much anything. Do you think that in the same situation now as President Trump is, both would sort of conclude to do the same things? Is that, you take action if one or two or more of those factors fall into place, as you're alluding to? Right.
I think yes, I think in terms of the U.S. government, the analysis that the U.S. government would provide the President of the United States, you would see the same. You have to look at all the various factors, and is there success? I don't think anyone wants to set up the President of the United States for failure. President Trump is looking for quick wins. Iran is a little bit of a complicated situation to find a quick win. And so I do think from the messaging that he's been putting out, he really does want negotiations. You have to bear in mind where President Trump is right now, though. The domestic politics is a bit tricky, right? Steve Bannon was just out the other day saying, bombing Tehran right now would be insane. So we have to bear in mind where the MAGA base is, and any sort of potential forever war in the Middle East could be challenging.
Negah, thanks so much for joining us. Very much appreciated. Really interesting perspective.